So there's a lot of debates on that, and we'll talk about that more and more over time. One of the things that you have to understand about investing that many people don't is you don't have to invest if you don't have good investment ideas. And I think this is actually what's wrong with hedge funds and mutual funds and other types of funds, that no one forces you to make a bet, or at least they shouldn't. Some investors and investment managers feel like they're forced. They actually feel like they have to come up with great new stock ideas all the time. And sometimes there just aren't any. There just aren't any. And you don't lose anything by not betting. And there's a lot of great investors like Buffett and like Seth Klarman and others who have done very well, by just kind of waiting. So turnover, how fast should you change the stocks in your portfolio? This is a great question. I get this question a lot. People say, how often do you want to hold a stock for? And I say, for as little time as possible. Why is that? Well, it's the sort of opportunity cost of money concept. If I buy a stock for $10 and I think it's worth $20, they say, well, how long do you want to hold that stock for? And the answer is as little as possible. As fast as I can get a return, the better. If this is going to take 5 years, I can do the rate of return on that. Let's see, 5 years minus 10 plus 20. That's a 15% return. That's pretty good. If it's going to take 10 years, well, that's a 7% return. That's not that exciting. What if it took 1 year? Well, that's a 100% return, right? How about half a year? Half a year would be better. That's a 300% rate of return. Now note, I'm not making 300%. This is a 100% return. But if I'm making it in 6 months, and this is a 300% so-called IRR, internal rate of return. And that's an important concept that we're going to go to. Internal rate of return. And this is a really interesting concept. So let's say for the long term, I think it's going to go from 10 to 20, and it's going to take 2 years. 2 years. Let me do this math again. Now let's say that's a 41% rate of return, which would be amongst the best fund managers of all time. I like my stocks when they perform that way. But let's say I bought the stock at 10, and it was $12. It was $12 2 weeks later. It was 52 weeks in a year, right? So that's 0.038 years later. 0.038 of a year later. 2 weeks later. Right? 2 weeks later. What's my rate of return? It's actually 12,000%. It's 12,000%. Now, there's never been a hedge fund that's made 12,000%. But the point is that I'd much rather buy and sell a stock in 2 weeks and make 20%. Let's see, the IRR is 20%, is 12,000%. But the actual cash return, we'll call it, is only 20%. I'd much rather get this than that. Does anyone know why? The answer is not because the IRR is higher. What is it? What? But why exactly? And there is no great method for this. Some of it is, I think, pretty random. It's hard to know if a stock's going to go up in 2 weeks or 2 years. Sometimes you'll get most of the bang for the buck in a few months. It's a time value of money. I can always take my $12. I say this is millions of dollars. I took $10 and made it $10 million and made it $12 million. Well, now I can take that $12 million and find a new opportunity, potentially one similar to this one. And I'll be plenty happy with the rate of return I made. Now, I may say I don't have any other opportunities. I'm going to hold on to this one. There's a lot of ways to think about it. And there's no easy answer. But again, as time approaches 0, it's very hard to know that you're getting anything but randomness. You know, if someone told you that they could predict using fundamental analysis, the only kind of legitimate analysis without quantitative analysis, which we'll talk about some other time, if someone could tell you that they thought that from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock that the stock market would go down, I'd tell you that they were crazy. But that would be really fast, right? That wouldn't even be 2 weeks. That would be like 1 hour. So if you could consistently do that, even if the return is 1%, you would make such a fortune, it'd be crazy. And there are some people who are okay at this. They don't get it right 100% of the time, but maybe they get it 55% of the time. I'm not that kind of person. In fact, I'm not sure I believe in that. So there's very much randomness from the hour to hour. Maybe if you don't believe that, how about every 15 minutes? Do you really think the market moves in a predictable way every 15 minutes? Maybe if you have Renaissance's supercomputer and you know that people are buying or selling at any given point, maybe, but I doubt it. But as time goes to infinity, you can really understand that companies like Coke, this is 20, 30 years. Coke stock has gone up quite a lot. As time stretches over long periods of time, maybe it is easier to understand whether a stock will go up or down.